What if I told you that attraction, real, gut level, can't breathe without you attraction, is not a decision, not a checklist, not logic, not even choice? What if everything you've been told about being a nice guy, being respectful, and being yourself has secretly sabotaged your chances before you even opened your mouth? Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, this is where we break down what it means to be a man in the modern world. Masculinity isn't toxic. Weakness is. And if you want to be the man women feel in their bones, not just the one they politely smile at and forget, we're about to go deep into a world few dare to enter. So hit that subscribe button, drop a like if you're ready for the truth, and let's get into it. Let's begin not in a bar, not on a dating app, but in prehistory, 300,000 years ago, before languages had rules, before fire was tamed in every village, before there were written laws or wedding rings. Attraction then wasn't a swipe, it was survival. The women who chose poorly often died. Those who chose wisely passed their genes into the future. They didn't have time to analyze, debate, or reason. They felt the moment a man walked into a space, her body made a decision. Not her brain, her biology. Does this man feel dangerous or protective? Is he driven or directionless? Can he fight or will he flee? Fast forward to today, and here's the uncomfortable truth. The feeling has never left. Science backs it. Evolutionary psychology tells us that much of what drives female desire is unconscious. Women aren't attracted to what makes sense. They're attracted to what feels inevitable. Not the man she should want, but the man she can't help but want. Think of James Bond. Think of Achilles. Think of the storm-eyed stranger in a film who says little, but owns the room. These men don't explain themselves. They don't perform. They don't chase. They exist. They radiate. And their very presence pulls emotion from a woman like gravity bends light. You don't look at them and think, you feel. This is the core of the truth. Attraction isn't something you get from a woman. It's something you awaken in her. Not through logic, through energy, through your posture, your presence, your purpose. Through the primal signal that says, I know who I am, I know where I'm going. You can join me or watch from afar, but I will not stop. Now here's the twist most men miss. The modern world rewards what the primal mind doesn't care about. Status in the form of Instagram likes, flashy watches, even a charming smile. It all fades in the face of emotional resonance. A woman can swipe through 1,000 men with perfect grammar and LinkedIn jobs and still end up obsessed with the one who makes her feel unsafe. Not because he's dangerous, but because he disrupts her carefully managed emotional routine. You see, women don't remember men who were nice, they remember men who stirred something. And most men, tragically, have no idea how to stir. They present themselves like products, polished, polite, inoffensive. But no one feels a fire for a brochure. No woman dreams of a PowerPoint husband. She wants the man who enters the room and makes her stomach flip without a word. And this is where everything changes. Because when a woman says, I don't know, there's just something about him, what she's really saying is, he makes me feel things I can't control, and that terrifies me. But I want more. This isn't manipulation, it's magnetism. And magnetism is born from alignment. A man aligned with his mission, his values, his self-respect. A man who isn't seeking approval because he approves of himself already. He doesn't need to prove he's good. He knows he's necessary. Let me tell you a quick story. In 1942, during World War II, a young pilot named Richard Bong became America's top fighter ace. He was calm under pressure, lethal in the skies. But off the battlefield, he was quiet, even bashful. One night at a USO dance, he walked in wearing his flight jacket, not boasting, not performing, just present. A woman across the room felt something shift. She couldn't explain it. Her breath caught. She didn't know he was a hero. But her body recognized something. Something still, something grounded. They married within a year. Why her? Why him? Because she felt him. And that feeling had nothing to do with charm. Men who are felt, they don't beg, they don't debate, They don't wait for permission to be noticed. They carry themselves like someone who has already been chosen by life, and that, paradoxically, is what makes women choose them. So the question becomes, how do you become that man? Not in theory, not in the shallow copy-paste advice you've heard 1,000 times, but in reality. It starts with silence. Silence in your mind. The kind of silence that comes when you've stopped chasing, stopped proving, and started building. A man who trains every day, not just in the gym, but in solitude, discipline, vision. A man who refines his voice, who owns his space, who faces his own fears, who wakes up not wondering, who will like me today, but asking, what am I becoming today? Attraction doesn't live in your looks. It lives in your energy, your aura. And aura isn't a mystical glow. It's what happens when your thoughts, your values, and your actions finally agree. Ever seen a lion walk? He doesn't strut. He doesn't announce himself. But when he moves, everything around him feels it. That's the energy of presence, and you can't fake it. A man with presence doesn't need to tell you his worth. You sense it. So does she. That's why you might have heard women say, I want a man who's confident, but not cocky. And what she means is, I want a man who doesn't need my validation to feel whole. And the irony is brutal, because the moment you try to act like that man, she sees through it. But the moment you become that man, she can't ignore it. Now pause, let this sink in. Everything you've been taught, every magazine tip, every relationship guru who told you to text her this, or wait 3 days, or be nice and she'll come around. All of it was built on the assumption that you can convince her to feel something. But you can't convince a feeling, you can only awaken it. And awakening begins with you. Are you living with purpose? Are you training your body not to impress, but to respect yourself? Are you speaking with conviction, even when your voice shakes? Are you chasing your own destiny? Or are you standing in the shadows hoping she'll notice? Because here's the brutal truth, brother. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for direction. And if you don't know where you're going, she'll feel it instantly and walk away, confused by her own disinterest. This is where most men get stuck. They hear advice, try a tactic, get ghosted, and spiral. But they're not rejected because they're not enough. They're rejected because they're not centered. Because deep down, they haven't yet become the man they would admire. Attraction isn't a negotiation. It's an ignition. And women, they don't light matches for men who have no spark. So how do you light that spark? Not in her, but in you. Because the moment you begin to radiate, to own the room without asking for permission, to move with intention rather than anxiety, that's when she feels you. That's when her logic shuts off and her senses turn on. And make no mistake, this isn't about dominance. It's not about alpha cliches or loud bravado. The men who try to dominate are often compensating. Loudness is not power. Stillness is. Real power is silent. It's the man who walks into a space and doesn't seek the spotlight, but the spotlight finds him anyway. Because power isn't what you show, it's what you withhold. The ability to stay calm when others panic. The refusal to chase when others beg. The discipline to say no to what feels good in the moment so you can say yes to a life of meaning. You don't become that man overnight, but every choice you make is a vote. When you hit the gym instead of the snooze button. When you read instead of scroll. When you stay quiet in a room full of noise, not out of fear, but because you're observing, calculating, owning your time. These moments shape your center, and from your center comes your pull. Because here's what most people will never tell you. Attraction is magnetic, not mechanical. And magnets don't chase, they draw. Not by pulling, but by being undeniable. There's a concept in psychology called limbic resonance. It's the idea that our nervous systems can literally sync with the emotional state of someone nearby. And it's real. Science has measured it. People can feel your confidence, your calm, your chaos. That's why a woman's attraction can spike or die in seconds, because she doesn't respond to your words, she responds to your frequency. That's why scripted pickup lines feel dead. Why being nice can feel invisible. Why doing everything right still ends with, "You're just not my type." Because none of that touches the limbic system. None of that creates a felt experience. And that's what this is really about. You're not just trying to get a woman to like you. You're trying to become a man who creates experiences, whose presence shifts a room, whose silence says more than most men's shouting. You become that man by living a story that's worth telling, by becoming a man you'd follow, a man of depth, principle, power, and restraint. Because here's the paradox of masculine energy. It's not wild, it's contained, like a river that cuts through rock, not because of its force, but because of its direction. Most men are like floods, loud, scattered, messy. But a few, they are rivers, quiet, focused, relentless. And women don't fall for floods. They fall for the river that never stops moving toward its end. So the next time you see a woman light up in a man's presence, stop asking what he said. Start noticing how he carries himself, where his eyes go, how still his body is, how much he doesn't need her approval, because he's already in alignment with a greater goal. Let's take a real-world example. Think of a man like David Goggins. Does he smile a lot? No. Does he flatter? Not a chance. But do people feel him? Deeply. Not because he's charming, but because he's real. Because when he speaks, it comes from a place of truth, a place that's been forged through pain, effort, and clarity of purpose. That's what attraction responds to. Authenticity fused with strength. And you might be wondering now, what if I'm not there yet? Good. That's where the fire begins. Because it means you've seen the gap. And once you see the gap between who you are and who you could become, you can never unsee it. That ache, that frustration. That's your soul begging you to evolve. Let it hurt. Let it push you. Let it build you. Because the man who transforms himself doesn't just become attractive. He becomes legendary, not in the world's eyes, but in the eyes of the woman who sees him and knows, that one. That's the one I'll never forget. And yet, this is where most men sabotage everything. They begin to improve. They train. They read. They grow. And then they meet her and they collapse. They turn her into the goal. They stop climbing their mountain and start circling hers. And in doing so, they lose everything they built. Because the woman was never the destination. She was the reward for staying on the path. So stay on the path. Keep building the business. Keep mastering your craft. Keep protecting your peace. The right woman will feel you long before she ever knows you. Because a man who's in motion, who's not performing, not proving, just becoming, that's the man she dreams about. And one day she'll stand in a room and feel it. Not see it. Not hear it. Feel it. And that feeling won't be a choice. It'll be a gravitational pull, a force of nature. You. Because attraction isn't logical. It's biological. It's not a decision. It's a recognition. And when she sees you, really sees you, not just with her eyes, but with her gut, with her breath, with her silence, she'll know. Just like you'll know. Because you didn't become the man who chased her. You became the man who was already moving, and she just happened to feel your gravity. So now let me leave you with this. Don't chase her heart. Don't beg for her time. Don't try to be the man she thinks she wants. Become the man she feels. And when she does, she won't ever forget you. Not because you said the right words, but because your presence said everything. And that is attraction beyond choice. That is power beyond words. That is the man you're meant to be.